It's a very appropriate moment and a place where I think we should put, we all have been taking assessments all our life, isn't it? Examinations, every year examination. So let us also put our current socio-economic education system to some assessment. I personally don't like tests. So today we are seeing that when I go to visit places, when I make presentations, recently as was announced, I was also giving a talk in World Hindu Congress. Many people approach and they talk about, the failing systems across the globe, not only in India. When we say failing system means we're talking about physical health, diseases that were unheard of or, far and few people had. Today, almost every family has, whether it's cancer, diabetes, hypertension, asthma. The amount of social issues that we are grappling with, relationships, are falling apart. We generally joke, if husband and wife stay together, it's a joint family today. So what to talk of brothers and sisters, brothers and brothers, parents and children. Families are fragmenting. People are more and more going into the virtual reality rather than the real reality of life. Similarly, emotional and psychological issues. So we need to understand that something is not working well in our country, in the world, which is actually leading to these issues that we are facing. Not to even mention about the environmental mess we have created. When in India, if we see, there was a tradition that when a child was born, the grandfather would sow a seed for a tree and would say that this seed I am sowing not for my grandson, but for his grandson or her grandson. Now that was a tradition. Today, we are borrowing from our grandchildren and living. Whether it's our rivers, whether it's our resources, whether it's our land mass. So much of destruction around us, and yet, we are not questioning. And I was so pleased to see the topic of this whole event called Punar Utthan. Punar Utthan actually means revisit. It has a context of the past and it has the context of the future. So let us see how we can learn from the past and build a beautiful future. So for any society to flourish, education actually is the foundation for that society. It's the education that builds an individual. It's an individual that builds a society which builds a country, and country is a part of the whole global ecosystem. So it's very, very fundamental and important that we first become a holistic, grounded, complete individual. And how do we do that? Now, all of us increasingly are focusing on education that is coming from outside, which is needed. For example, we learn maths, we learn science, we learn languages, we learn different subjects. I think India always was the destination. If we read many books of today's experts, we would figure out that India was always the destination of people across the world to learn. We had Takshashila, Nalanda, Vikramshila, Sharada, so many educational institutions where more than 10,000 students studied. Now, what was so remarkable of the country? Dharampalji mentions in his book, The Beautiful Tree, that India had more than 5 lakh educational institutions in 1805. So where were these educational institutions? What were they teaching? While they taught subjects which were from outside, our main focus was also on education which was from inside. Now when I say a word yoga, everybody would immediately think, oh, asanas. But that is only for the physical sheath. Any human being has all the 5 layers which are shown here. The Annamaya, the Pranamaya, the Manomaya, Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya Kosha. For the physical, the Annamaya is the asanas. For the Pranamaya is the Pranayama. For the Manomaya is Manoyog. For the Vijnanamaya is Viveka. And for the Anandamaya it is Atma Vidya or Adhyatma. All these things put together is yoga. That is what was a fundamental core of our educational system. Where is it today? So we have reduced our education to just few subjects. We teach maths, we teach science, and we teach English. 20 years of our children just keep studying these three subjects. It's not sufficient. There needs to be an emphasis on a holistic learning ecosystem, and maths also should become a part of yoga. Science should also become a part of yoga. Many stalwarts, if we see Sri Aurobindo, we talk about Gandhiji, we talk about Vivekananda, we talk about many stalwarts from West also talking about the head, heart and hands. This was a known knowledge in Bharat. We are talking about the Ichha, Kriya and Jnana, or the Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda and Jnana Kanda, the three parts of Vedas. For thousands of years this knowledge has been preserved in our country, and we have consciously lost it in last few hundred years. So I am proposing a model where we need to get back to our Gurukula education system, not only for the Vedic studies but also for the day Gurukulas. We had 5 lakh educational institutions. All those institutions were also teaching the sciences, the maths, the languages, the itihasa, and the skills. So if we talk about skilling our Kriya Shakti, we are talking about agriculture, we are talking about weaving cloth, we are talking about pottery. In fact, there is record that in Ujjain, 64 kalas and 14 vidyas were taught. Now it is possible, because there are many attempts which are going around to re-establish or punarutthan of this education model of Bharat. And I would just take you through that in a while. So when this slide, what we see is there in the Kriya Shakti there are subjects which skill the hand, and on the Ichha Shakti there are subjects which are mostly focusing on the feeling realm. There are intellectual subjects also, but all these subjects in the micro level also focus on head, heart, and hands. For example, maths, how do you teach in a holistic way? Or music, how do you teach in a holistic way? Or agriculture, how do you teach in a holistic way? So while agriculture would figure in a subject which is related to hands, it also includes involvement of the feeling realm and of the intellect. So some examples are, our education system should involve agriculture. See, most of the parents and children and students want good food, but nobody wants their child to become a farmer. Most of us want good education for our child. Nobody wants their child to become a teacher. Only the people who are not able to do anything else, they actually end up in an education field. Imagine what would be the future of the country and of the education, or the students who are going to learn from such teachers. So the best student actually should become a teacher. That has been the tradition, and we should preserve that tradition of ours. When you do agriculture, when you make cloth, you would never waste. I have interacted with many students and I asked them, okay, how many pairs of clothes do you have in your almirah? Can you imagine more than 200? And some of us might be giggling here and smiling also, because our almirah and cupboard would also be like that. But that's a reality. How many do we need? So when you make a piece of cloth and learn how to do so, you would never have more than what you need. When you grow food, you would know you will have an understanding what it takes to make food. You won't waste. Oh, tomato, I don't like, I don't like that vegetable, I don't like that grains. So this reality of what it takes to grow food, when the child grows with his or her own hands, they understand that, oh, I won't waste even a single grain in my plate. It's joyful also. It's a part of construction, ecological construction. What level of havoc? We've broken down our mountains, we've broken down our hills, so many quarries around, and we are building apartment after apartment, such tall buildings, and feeling very proud of. Where would that waste go? The fundamental principle of any construction has to be construction, maintenance, and destruction. All three things should come together. We don't think about how would we destroy or manage it. First of all, maintain, and how do we preserve the ecology or ecosystem when it completes its life. So pottery, handwork. Many times I joke, we see parents talking to a 3-year or a 4-year or a 6-year-old child. Focus, have patience. It's an empty bullet for a child. What does a child need? What patience means? So if our curriculum in our school and at our home, traditionally it used to be at home where grandmother or mother would knit. Today, it's unseen. So it has to be a part of our education system where children actually, when they are knitting, they knit a pouch for themselves over a month. It means, this is what means patience for the child. Because it has to be learnt in the body. It cannot be intellectualized. For a 7-year-old, what does that word patience or focus means? So many issues we see around us of depression, sadness, and health issues. If children play, there will be no depression. Today students are ready to come and talk about all the football fields of the world, but they won't play football. They're ready to talk about all IPL teams and which player was bought for how much, but they won't play cricket. So it's very important we re-establish those systems where children play and sweat. It has multiple benefits. They won't get diseases. They would feel healthy. Their mind would be refreshed. These are very basic things. It needs to be built back in our education system. Education doesn't only happen at school. Education also happens on road. Education also happens at home. Yeah. Yoga, I have already mentioned, spoken about. Kalas. See, we have purposefully destroyed all our important components of education. Kalas, extracurricular. The word itself says it's not needed. Yeah, it is extracurricular. So what is main curricular? Mathematics and science. Now, nothing against maths and science. I am myself an engineer. But we have to understand that how many engineers and doctors do we need in a society? We need artists, we need artisans, we need farmers, we need potters, we need weavers, we need engineers, we need doctors. And that is how we build a beautiful society. Why aren't we questioning an education system which is just focused on, making all 27 crore children of our country only engineers and doctors? Yeah. So very important to bring back the kalas in its central place. All three are important: Ichha, Kriya and Jnana. Head, heart and hands. I will take a couple of examples of how a holistic curriculum can look like, which is what today's need is. Imagine a system where we are teaching a student about a paper wrapped on a wood and a paper wrapped on a metal sheet, and then you take that paper and a wood stick on a flame, and you take the other paper on a metal sheet on a flame. Which one would burn? The paper on the wood would burn immediately. Why? Now this is a science experiment in conduction, but it's a partial knowledge. We just stop here. First of all, we don't do experiments, and even if we do, we stop here. If we just extend it further, for Bharatiya Drishti or Indian way of looking at things, we would also include the spiritual dimension. One is the transactional and the other is the spiritual. What we say, the Vyavahara and the Paramartha. The Vyavahara dimension is that the paper caught fire because the wood is a very bad conductor of heat. The heat got accumulated and that paper caught fire. And the metal being a good conductor, it transmitted the heat away. Now that's the Vyavahara, the transactional part of the whole experiment. What is the spiritual part? Don't keep your feelings to yourself. If you're feeling sad, share it. Otherwise you will get burnt. And that is what is depression. That is what is sadness. We are seeing around us so many students, taking their lives. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, Bhumir apo anil vayu kham manor buddhi revacha ahankara ityame bhinna prakriti rashtada. That means the rules that apply to earth, water, air, fire, ether also applies to man, buddhi and ahankara. They are bhinna. And that is very important to understand, that whatever is going around us, it has an example and a learning for us. Another example is photosynthesis. We have reduced our education to just, again, transaction, where my profit, where I get, money centered, profit centered, matter centered. Photosynthesis, all of us would know, it is sun, it is leaf, stomata, food, minerals, water, all put together. Leaves make some food which is stored and sustains the plant. Most of the world, if you see, which has snowfall, what happens to that leaf throughout the year? So if we are teaching just about the creation of food, it is partial knowledge again. The same leaf in autumn sheds down. Why does it shed from a tree? What happens to the leaf over throughout the year? It changes colors. From green it becomes reddish, from reddish it becomes brown, and then it falls down. When does it fall down? It falls down one season before winter. Yes or no? It falls down one season before winter because in winter there is no sun in most of the world. It snows. And if the leaf was on the tree, it would have killed the tree because there were millions of leaves on that tree. In order to save the tree, in the mood of seva, in the mood of service, the leaf sheds itself. What a beautiful example in service. And we don't teach this to our children. This is holistic education. Moral science should not be just contained to a class here or a class there, which is usually taken away when exams come. Each and every movement and breath has to be yoga. Each and every movement has to be meditation. Each and every movement has to be full of values. This is holistic education. These are some examples of some work of children, who are creative, who are very, very, from childhood, if we build such creativity, only then India can boast of, having artisans who actually made temples out of mountains. Today there is none. We can boast of, students who have grown becoming, people who can carve out things, who can create beautifully, who can become great musicians and dancers, who can be a fantastic mathematician or an engineer. Then you don't need a quality control person and a manager and a lead and then, a certification body, because the person is self-motivated to do that work. And that is the type of society we need to create going forward, which is preserving and sustaining and not destructive. I will just This was our education system, which was in more than 5 lakh educational institutions. People were flabbergasted because in most of the places there were few thousand students going to school at that time, when in 1805 India had 5 lakh educational institutions. So we have lost it, but there is hope because we still have an understanding. We have people around. We have people who have carried this methodology through difficulties. Let us revisit, let us focus on getting this education system back so that we have good health, good relationships, meaningful purpose to our life, and focus not only on the matter but also on the spirit, the spiritual dimension, the knowledge from outside and from inside both. Thank you very much.